Hello and welcome to Top Gear India. Now, have you wanted a Volvo XC40 Recharge but want to please with the flamboyance that it had to portray? Well, that's where you have the all-new C40 Recharge, which aims to be a bit more flamboyant, a bit more aerodynamic, and a bit more technologically advanced. Is it worth it? Well, prices are yet to be announced. They're going to be announced at the first week of September. So we don't know what it's going to be priced, if it's going to be the same, above, below. So let's just presume it's going to cost the same. And let's go over everything that's here, everything that's new, and what's different compared to the XC40 Recharge. Alright, so let me talk about what's new in terms of design. So in the front, everything looks the same, but what's new is the headlamp actually. What you get now is Volvo's pixel design technology, or pixel technology, so to say. What you get in that is about 80 different individual LEDs that work in tandem together to figure out any oncoming traffic and shut off the light in just that vicinity while illuminating the rest of the road. So essentially adaptive high beam, but in case you want to reference your matrix headlamp, yeah, well, it's essentially that with a different name. So this is what's new compared to the XC40 Recharge, the regular one. Apart from that, the front looks are pretty much identical. What you have also is new color options. So I think you get about 3 new color options compared to the regular XC40 Recharge, but more on that later. What you also get is a new design for the 19-inch wheels. Volvo claims that these are a bit more aerodynamic, and you also get a new set of tires. These are specifically designed for this car. These are low resistance tires. So I'm a bit curious about how the grip will fare on these tires since they're designed for low resistance, but I guess we'll find out in a bit. But in terms of design, again, it takes a while to grow on you, but when you actually see these tires moving on the road, they actually look quite nice. On the face of it, yeah, I think it's down to your personal taste. I do think they look kind of nice, but up to you guys. Now, everything over here up till this point is pretty much the same. The roofline is slightly lowered thanks to the coupe-like roofline. And now you no longer get a panoramic sunroof. Instead, what you get is just, well, you kind of get a panoramic sunroof, but it's one that you cannot open. So no putting your kids out from the top. Now from here, as you can tell, the door has completely changed compared to the XC40 Recharge to accommodate this coupe-like roofline. And honestly, this roofline over here, it looks stunning. It makes the car look very muscular. And despite its understated Swedish lines, this looks a lot more prominent and a lot more eye-catchy compared to the regular XC40 Recharge. Alright, now come to the rear over here, and what you have is you have 2 little spoilers over here, one over here on the roof and one over here at the boot. And yes, it does look a lot more attractive than the regular XC40 Recharge. In fact, I really like this tail lamp design, and not only are the indicators now sequential, but you also get this cool, so when you get essentially welcome tail lights, so when you get to the car, it does this cool thing, which again, awesome. Minimal, but awesome. So when you lock the car and you move away from it, it goes back. Again, really clever, looks very nice, and I like how Volvo's done like this dual tone finish. They didn't just paint the roof the same color. And the spoiler over here looks really nice. I wish it was an active spoiler like what you may have seen on the 3 Series GT, but it's okay. It's a spoiler that stays still and it looks very nice, and I think the rear end of this car looks very attractive. Alright, now let's talk about the boot capacity. So you get about 400 liters of boot capacity, but with this wheel inside over here, I'm guessing that number comes down a bit more. Also, what you can do is you can fold back these the luggage tray over here, so you can form a bit of a barrier between the luggage you want to store so it doesn't move around as much, which is pretty clever. But one thing that you will be limited with is storing tall cargo, which will be a bit of a problem because of the lower roofline. But that's about it. This car is built a bit more for style than it is for practicality. Despite that, it is quite practical for a coupe-like car. So with that in mind, let's talk about what this car is like on the inside and what's new. Alright, now on the inside over here, again, it's very eco-friendly. Volvo says that they've gone the sustainable route and they've used absolutely no leather here inside whatsoever. In fact, a lot of the flooring and the carpeting has been made with recycled materials. Recycled wood, random fodder lying in the forest, corks, plastic bottles. In fact, just to make the flooring of the car, they've used about 72 plastic bottles. So each Volvo C40 Recharge has a flooring for about 70 plastic bottles, which is quite cool. Also, what you get over here, instead of ambient lighting in the traditional way, what they've done is they've given you this sort of like topographic trim over here, which is essentially translucent plastic. So at night it lights up and it looks beautiful. It's a very clever way to do ambient lighting, and I think it honestly looks quite minimal and tastefully done. Kudos to Volvo for that. Another thing I really like about the interior of this car is the music system. You get a 13 speaker 600 watt Harman Kardon system, which it sounds awesome, best in the class in my opinion. Nothing comes close to it. It's just that good. Now you get the same system that you always did. It's a 12-inch screen over here. You get Google Maps and Android Auto inbuilt over here, so you can even connect your phone further. Now I'm at about 87% and it's showing me about 380 kilometers of range. But to be very honest with you, when I left the location, it was showing me about 92%, was still 380 kilometers of range. So I think the range over here that it says is not very accurate. I think ideally this car should be able to give you about 400 kilometers of range very easily, about 450 if you're conservative and you're sensible. Now Volvo claims that you can expect a range of anywhere between 530 kilometers to about 630 kilometers, and I'm not so sure about that. We would have to test that on a long duration, but for now, yeah, on the interior everything seems very nice. It's very spacious. Now, even though you don't have a panoramic sunroof but you have this roof, headroom seems more than enough. For someone like me, I'm about 6 feet tall and I have no problem whatsoever accommodating myself in the front space. You get two Type-C chargers over here. You get a 12-volt socket, you get a wireless charging. You also get a dustbin over here. So yeah, you know, stay clean, stay green. What I like about these seats is that, again, they're very comfortable in typical Volvo format. You get these extendable under thigh supports, and when it comes to interior choices, you can only choose between two color options, and that's not the color option for the rest of the car. The rest of the car is going to remain black. It's these inserts over here that you see within this. So now this is black in color. You can opt for one which is blue, which is the same color as the exterior of this color. Fjord blue is what it's called, and I think the Fjord blue actually looks a lot nicer. It makes the interior feel a lot more lighter, so to say, even though it's a dark blue. But yeah, anyway, that's that about the front. Now let's hop in the back and I'll tell you about that. Alright, now the back seat. Now the driving seat is set to my position. I'm about 6 feet for reference, and I have about this much, 4 fingers worth of knee room over here, and about, yeah, just about 4 fingers worth of headroom. So not too much. I think anyone that is above 6'2" or 6'2" will struggle a bit for headroom and knee room. But again, it really depends on how short the passenger is. Under thigh support is non-existent, but again, I can imagine being here in this seat for not too long, perhaps about a 6-hour, 7-hour journey should be good enough, shouldn't be more. Now you get a nice armrest over here. It's comfortable. You cannot open through the center over here. What I do appreciate now when it comes to rear visibility, now two things that you may have noticed already. One is that you no longer get the panoramic sunroof. Instead you get this glass which cannot be opened, and it is tinted glass, so it automatically changes based on the daylight outside. If it's too bright, it gets darker. If it's not bright enough, it gets dimmer. Sorry, I mean gets more transparent, so to say. Now the headrest in the back. So as you can tell, there's about this much amount of space for rear visibility. But if you go through the settings menu on the screen, you can press one button that will make both the headrests fold down, which is kind of cool. But despite that, visibility in the back is not the best, and you'd be relying on the cameras a lot more than you would directly looking in the back. Now in the back over here, you only get one charging socket. Actually, no, there's two charging sockets. It's hidden in one socket. Two Type-Cs. You get AC ones in the back, and you also get ISOFIX mounts for your children in case you want to put your kids in the back. It's a comfy space to be, and I have no complaints with this back seat. Though it is not exactly luxury car levels of room. In fact, you are going to get a lot more legroom in the back in the Ioniq 5 and in the Kia EV6 for that matter. But that's only if you're choosing to be in the back, because this car is honestly all about the front seat. One more thing worth mentioning is on the Kia EV6, you can recline the seat. On the Ioniq 5, you can recline it and move it forward and back. On this one, you can't do either. So that is something worth noting if you are going to be taking long trips on this car, is that you're going to be sitting rather upright for most of it. Now let me tell you what it's like to drive. So as you can tell, power is always abundantly available. Wherever you are, if you're at 0, if you're at 50, if you're at 100, just put your foot down and this car will take off like it's nobody's business. So again, the powertrain is extremely impressive. I have no complaints there. The brakes could have been slightly better, slightly, ever so slightly. It's a small complaint, but it could actually be down to the fact that these tires are low resistance tires. So they give you better efficiency, but at the cost of a little bit of braking, I would say. But otherwise, again, I'm very happy with this car. Visibility is again great. Visibility at the rear is not the best, but you're one button away from folding down the headrest. Even then, it's about so much that I can actually see. So if you really want to look in the back, I just suggest pressing this button over here and using the rear camera. But wait, unfortunately, actually when you're moving, you can't use the rear camera. So use the mirrors, I guess, you know, be careful. But that's the problem with almost every sport pack. I have no complaints apart from that. Suspension, again, is good, but it could have been slightly better. Again, it's plush. It's plusher than the competition in my opinion. But when it comes to nailing the balance between ride quality and handling, I do think that the EV6 handles slightly better. It's not a huge margin, but it's slightly better. And I think if you were to get different tires on this car, it would change the handling drastically. So yeah, it could mainly be down to the tires. Otherwise, again, it turns in really well. The steering has good response. There's an option if you want to get the steering to be stiffer, you can actually do that, but it only firms up the steering. It's not going to increase any amount of feel or anything. Okay, that's the warning in case the car ahead of you suddenly slows down. So it has autonomous braking, it has lane keep assist, it pretty much has autonomous cruise control. It's got a lot of autonomous features that you would want. Given that it's Volvo, safety seems to be at the forefront of the approach of the car. I mean, especially when you consider 408 bhp, right? I mean, it's a very safe car. It's a very safe, fun car. But yeah, all in all, driving experience is honestly breathtaking. It's really nice. And just before we go, just once. Oof. One thing that I do think is missed out here is on the EV6, you get an option to change the sounds of what you hear on the inside of the car when it accelerates. I wish Volvo would have done that and given this a bit more character on the inside. It's just a software update. It's going to cost them nothing. But I really wish they could do something like that for future updates where you can actually change the sound of what you hear on the inside of the car. I would love maybe like a Jetson sound, or if you could get one of those old classic Volvos, or like one of the performance, or like something from the Polestar branch, right? That would be really awesome in my opinion. And I think it would give this car a lot more character and flair. But all in all, I am supremely impressed and no complaints there. The headlamps also perform decently well. I am just waiting for the sun to set so I can test them properly. So far, I've just entered a few tunnels and got a chance to test them. But once the sun sets, I'll get a proper chance to test them. But at least for now, they seem better than the regular XC40 Recharge. So good job here, Volvo. But with about 170-175 mm of ground clearance, the C40 Recharge is quite capable. And I have actually been taking it off-road, not extreme off-road, but just these dirt trails. And the car is at no problem whatsoever. You even get a dedicated off-road mode inside the car, which brings down the power and tunes the traction control and the four-wheel drive system to just accommodate this kind of roads. And I've been able to come to this beautiful location over here, all thanks to this beautiful little car over here. Now, do I have any real complaints with it? The brakes could have been slightly better. I wish the suspension setup was, again, a bit better. It doesn't feel nearly as plush as I would want it to. It's definitely more plush than the Ioniq and the EV6, but still not as plush as I wanted to. But again, these are minor gripes when you consider what a complete package you're getting with this car. And I can really draw no faults with this. Good job, Volvo. Honestly, I feel like if Volvo prices it well enough, now we don't know the prices just yet, but as the XC40 sits, it sits about slightly more expensive than the Ioniq 5 and slightly cheaper than the EV6. And if Volvo prices this, prices it higher than the XC40, but still cheaper than the EV6, I think this car is going to sell like hotcakes. And even if it costs slightly more than the EV6, would I still buy it? I don't know. I feel like when you really consider what a performance bargain this car is, I mean, it's faster than a lot of sports sedans back in the day. It can beat an Aston Martin Rapide, it can beat a Maserati Quattroporte, and it also has better range than both those cars. So when you factor those in, I mean, it's a very hard package to say no to. So kudos to Volvo for packaging this car really well, and I really hope they price it well. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is Gavin Rodriguez signing off.